Good morning. Welcome. Today I am here with author Landon, and we are going to be talking about their latest book, To Neverlasting. Welcome, Landon. How are you?
I'm great right now, honestly.
Wonderful. Are you excited? Your debut book is going to be out soon. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, this is it's kind of surreal to me still, because it's been my dream for so long to get a book published. And to me, I don't think that publishing a poetry book was the first thing to come to mind. But honestly, I think it's one of the best things ever still, because I got to communicate with the way I felt in these different metaphors and everything. So it's really nice to get everything out there into the book and all my thoughts and stuff.
What do you mean that you never thought that you would get a poetry book out? What were your intentions, I guess, initially?
In my mind, I'd already been working on something with a couple of people that were online friends, because we had this idea, I would write it and then we all came up with separate characters that would all be into it. And so that was my idea, that it'd take a couple more years to get something published like that, because it's barely been written. And so publishing a poetry book first was definitely not the first thing that came to mind. But I gave myself a challenge right before my 18th birthday, that I wanted to write a book within the 3 days that it took before my birthday. And I did it. And I spent late nights still writing it, and I'd spend the entire day just writing everything in my journal, because I didn't actually put it onto a document until I finished everything that I needed. Yeah, so it was really a shock to me to get something like this published first instead of a novel, because I love writing. I have written poetry obviously, but I also have written things that were longer and more detailed and had stuff like that, just normal fiction.
It's an amazing start, honestly. And I want to say for many authors, they get started with poetry. And so you are right on path, I think. And I totally get what you're saying. For fiction, it takes a lot of probably a lot more work than poetry, but some people would argue that poetry might be, but I guess it all depends on your belief system as well.
Yeah.
Okay, can I actually do this? How much work is it going to take? What am I doing? But I think that's awesome. And I just want to point this out because sometimes I have authors listening, I have readers listening, and something that I like to share is if you don't believe that it can happen, then it's probably not going to happen. And so something that you had said that I want to point out to those that are listening is that they believe that it could happen. Therefore, here we are months away from releasing To Neverlasting. And so that's amazing. It's something that I always say on my personal account is book publishing is 80% mindset and it's 20% know-how. And so if you know how to do it, all you have to do is get your mindset together and you'll be able to do it. And so that's wonderful. Who or what motivated you to write?
Definitely my best friend. She's the closest person that I have to me. She knows that I love writing, that I absolutely love it. And she saw a post that was on the Winn Publishing Instagram that was how to self-publish, or I think that was just an event here. And I was that looks really cool. But unfortunately, I had plans that day, so I wasn't able to go. But a couple of days later, I started looking into the publishing options on the website. And I was I want to do this. This is something that I really want. I might as well do it while I'm young and get started. And then that's when I gave myself the challenge to write a book within the 3 days until I turned 18. And it was a lovely experience, especially starting to go through everything that I ever in, taking out pieces, and if I wanted to edit them more and go into a slightly more depth within it, then I would write that down onto the doc, or taking out poems that I'd have second thoughts about and just going with that. So my best friend was the one who made me get more motivated to start really doing everything, because we both have these dreams that are so big. And now that we're graduated and we're free to do really whatever we want. It's like the beginning of our real lives outside of what we were used to.
And I think that's one of the reasons when we had first initially talked, I was like, dang, I remember being 18, like I just wanted to publish books. Like, honestly, I didn't really want to go to college. I didn't really want to do all those things. But for me, like, and a lot of people, college was like a way out of their like current situations or whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to college. But like, I went to school to become a journalist, all of that. We're not here to talk about me. But what I'm saying is I could totally identify and relate with that. And I was like, well, let's just give them a chance and see what happened. And it's been an amazing experience on my end as well, to kind of, it's like, okay, I feel like in a way, and I don't know if I'm going to share this part or cut this out or what, but I feel like I'm working with a younger version of myself. Like, oh, I don't know if I would have, I don't know if I had that much confidence in myself to like reach out to a publisher to publish books. But I also don't know if that option was available when I was 18. Like, I don't think so. I don't think that like hybrid publishing really wasn't a thing until I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago. And so it really wasn't even like a thing. If it was called like vanity press, where they just take your money, they don't really work with you, and that's it. And so I knew I didn't want to have that kind of publishing company. I knew I wanted to work together with my authors and like, let's do this thing together. And so far it's been an amazing journey. And so I'm so glad that you reached out. And yes, I'm here in Abilene. So shout out to Abilene, Texas. It's so wonderful to be in the storybook capital of America. And so what was your favorite subject in high school? Was it English? Is that safe to say?
I mean, my favorite subject in high school had to be art class. Because, you know, writing, like publishing books wasn't actually initially like what I thought I'd be doing. Because like from 8th grade or maybe even earlier, I wanted to be a photographer actually. Because like I do have a professional camera. I love using it, but I barely do nowadays because I don't really I can't really go anywhere to take pictures. But my plan through like, honestly, I think up until junior year was my plan to go to college, or maybe not even go to college. I think I was going to plan on freelancing, but I thought that I was going to go to college somewhere out of state and just become a photographer and do that. But then I started getting more into writing my junior year when I started taking a creative writing class. And I wasn't able to take it my senior year, but I still, you know, wrote everything. And it was like an amazing experience, even though I got work done super late, like the day before it was due. But I always loved writing for the class. I loved like creating like little snippets of things and just like letting my thoughts go wherever, because it was a free class. It was like a free class. You got to write really whatever you wanted. So it really brought more ideas to mind. And I absolutely loved it. So it got me more into writing. And as time passed by, I still didn't want to go to college. So I started writing more, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is something that I want to pursue more in the future. If I have to get side jobs to really, you know, make money and start doing things, then I'll do that. But as long as I get to publish something, as long as I can achieve my dream.
Yeah. And that's important. And that's what Winn Publications is about, is, you know, is helping people make their dreams come true. Our slogan is we can, we will, we win together. And so to me, that means like, we can do this. Like myself and the authors that I work with and the creatives that I work with, like we can do this, we will do this. And when we achieve that goal of publishing the book, like that's a major win for everybody involved, for yourself, for your best friend who designed the cover, for Winn Publications, for Abilene, for your high school. Like it's a major movement, I think. And I don't know if, I'm sure they know. I think the people that I work with are aware that they're changing, like, of course, the course for themselves, but also like their families. Winn Publications, Winn is my last name. It's my family's name. And so doing that and moving with integrity and making people's dreams come true, like that's and to have my family name on that is something that's so important to me. And so what does being an author mean to you?
I think it's like kind of hard to pinpoint one thing that makes it like really mean to me, but I think it just means that I can really let my creative outlet out,
Mm-hmm.
that like I can really pursue the ideas that are floating around in my head and put them onto a piece of paper and let it come to life in some sort of way. Like I see like movies that are based off books, and I love that. Like that's something that I also wanted to achieve. I wanted like something that's so moving or something and have it create into something that's a real life piece of work
Mm-hmm.
instead of uh just a book. Because I think that's like, because I know a lot of people don't read books, but they will watch things that are based off movies, like the Duff, Harry Potter, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's another way to get everything out into something, and it's like a bigger origin. Because then, if people see a movie based off a book, it'll interest them into wanting to read it, just to see like what's different, what's the same, and how it really portrayed it. And it's one of my favorite things, and I think that's like one of the bigger reasons why I love writing and why I love like becoming an author, because it's something that I can let all of my creativity out and have my friends help me with that, like have my ideas like more become bigger within
Mm-hmm.
every. So it's really important to me to do that, because I I love I love having my ideas out. I love being creative. So I think this like being creative is one of the biggest aspects and most important to me in being an author.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. Oh, I love creative people so much. I love my job. I really do. And so, okay. So let's talk about your book. So no spoilers, because
Yeah.
we definitely want people to go ahead and either get the pre-order and for sure get the book when it comes out. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So the book is truly about how like even months later you can still be bitter over things. Like it's obvious in the book that it's all really about the bitterness of a very short-lived relationship. And maybe like I villainized myself a lot in it, I think, because I believe that it was truly my fault within it, because I was the one who ended the relationship. I was the one who ended things because overthinking really like it devoured me, and I chose not to communicate within the relationship and tell him about that. So I just decided to end it while I was still fairly young. And I did lose my old friends for it, because he was a guy that was previously my other friend's ex, and they had been broken up for a while. And um as much as that like it hurt losing them, it probably was the best thing to happen to me too,
Mm,
because if I didn't, I don't think I would have the best friend I do now, and I don't think that I'd be here right now. I don't think that, you know, they would have showed me new opportunities, because that we were also within ourselves, and it was hard to communicate with them, as much as I hate to say that,
mhm,
because I'd been friends with them since sixth, seventh grade.
mhm.
So like having that relationship just vanish within a week was terrible for me. But also because I think I was hurt so much over that relationship with him, it's because he was the only person I had after that.
Mm,
And that wasn't a bad feeling. It really wasn't. But I think like I overthought everything. I was like, did I make a mistake doing this? But I was happy. I was, and that was probably one of the most happiest moments of my life. But I overthought things because I questioned myself. Did I really like him like this? Was I really in into him the way I think I am? And the moment I broke up with him was like, oh my God, I was.
mm,
But since he was in a relationship with one of my old friends, I knew what he had been through for that, because we didn't start becoming close until months earlier. But his relationship with my friend was off and on, and it was talk a lot of toxicity, because I know that she would flirt with other people, and I knew how she was with him, and I didn't want to put him through that again. And so I thought to myself, I'm not gonna tell him anything. I'm not gonna tell him how I really feel right now, because I don't think he deserves that. I don't think he deserves to go through that thing again, because that was like, I don't want him to hurt more than he already was.
Mm-hmm.
But then something happened, and it was terrible to think about, because then soon I became the friend that was like, who my other friend got with him. Like I became that person. But I had the belief that, and I still do, I think, that I want my friends to be happy. I want them to have all the happiness that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So if they find that within someone that I had previously been with, then okay, be happy. I mean, I won't mind, because that's all I want for you. That's all that I think you deserve, is pure happiness. But I don't know what happened along the road. I think maybe it was just because it was so soon after me and him had ended things that really damaged everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't take even more than a couple weeks for me to find out. And a couple weeks later, that's when we had broken up.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about that and all the things that I experienced with him it was just truly an experience to go through with that, because within a week, the other friendship had completely ended. But this friendship lasted a couple more months until it was finally just, I don't think I can do this anymore. You don't think about things, because one day, like an hour after graduation, we were at a post-graduation party. They had gone to a fight, and she wanted me to go talk to him. And then right after that, like after I actually started speaking to him, she went to my best friend and said, of course he talked to his ex, but not to me.
Yeah. Even listening to you process your thoughts just now, that's kind of what I experienced in reading the book. Like, oh my God, like I felt like I was on that roller coaster with you. And it was like, I'm like, wake up. I wanted to just like shake you or whoever. I mean, you have shared that, the story is based on your experience, and even to be vulnerable and share that, I commend you for that, because I think that's really difficult for some people. And but I also feel like we're in a season where people are looking for more people to be authentically themselves. Like, just be yourself. You don't have to like be a certain way or whatever to please people and to share that. And I think that even, in my big age, I think like I could absolutely relate with that, like allowing overthinking to kind of sabotage a relationship and not really understanding, maybe a little bit like in the middle of it, but kind of fully coming to an understanding when it's over, like, oh dang, like maybe things could have been different, but even that obstacle was an opportunity to change something. And that obstacle led to greater opportunities. Like, you probably wouldn't have written this. Like, that's a little, I don't know. I almost like choke saying that, but at the same time, it's like, man, we really do go through things. My mom used to tell me that sometimes we go through things not for ourselves, but to like share that and help somebody else. Like, our experiences are not just our experiences. If we decide to share them, then they can become almost like survival guides to other people, and I also think when we share our stories, we hear a lot about the person's character, as far as like who they are and things like that. And so I love that. I love that when as a reader as well, when you can kind of listen to things like this and get to know the person behind like the writing and just see like, hey, they're actually a normal person. I think that sometimes as readers we place authors on like this pedestal and we forget that J.K. Rowling, she's a regular person. She's also a regular person. Like these people are Steve Patterson, he's a regular person. And probably, I mean, many years, of course, it's going to take years and years and years to, grow a following or whatever and things like that. But I think that, and just a tip for anybody who's interested in writing, start now. Don't sit on your work. If you have something, if you have a dream, take action. Obviously, we already talked about believing in yourself. That's a major part in all of this. And give it a shot, because one of the things that I'm experiencing is, even if you write and publish more things, which I totally see that happening for you, writing and publishing more things, the books that you have already written, it's not like they died, they're still there. And what I see happen a lot of times is like an author will blow up and all of their books will start to get purchased, and not just the one book that does it for them or whatever. It's their whole catalog of books normally takes off. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to share. Okay, cool. And so the book absolutely is about relationships and love. And is there any advice that you have to share with maybe someone who could be in a relationship right now and they might say like, oh man, I think I'm overthinking things? Like, do you have any advice for them?
I think the biggest advice I have is communicate with your partner. Definitely tell them what you're thinking and like what's wrong, because I myself did kind of distance myself the last couple of days of our relationship, thinking like, is this how I really feel? Is this like am I faking it? And I talked to my friend about it and I told her everything, and I asked, is this normal to think about? And she said no. But I talked to my best friend now and she said, well, this was your first relationship, it was going to be your first serious relationship, that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But my other friend just convinced me that no, it wasn't normal, because in my mind I was uncomfortable with the thought of a relationship. Like the fact, like the idea of it was spectacular and I wanted to do those things, I wanted to be with someone, but the thought of it made me uncomfortable, made me nervous. But my best friend made me think more about it and said, that's normal for you to think about, it's your first serious thing. Of course you'd have difficult thoughts about it, but in my mind earlier it was like, no, that's not normal, that's not what you're supposed to think in a relationship. But I didn't communicate with him about any of that. I just let other people dictate what my thought was. And that was not good on my part. It was a terrible thing for me to do and not communicate, because I was all about, we need to talk about things, we need to communicate with each other, and I was the one to not communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. Communicate. But I think you touched on something that's important. When it's your first time, it's like, well, you're not really sure. Whenever we do something new, whether it be a relationship or like going after a goal or dream, I think that we start having those doubts like in our mind, and then we go to people that we feel like we could trust for advice. And then I think it's when things hit the fan that we're like, okay, how could I have done this differently? Like, okay, like but I feel like that's with anything. I know, like in business, and then just being like, I'm thinking about my life, and I'm sure like people who are listening can even point moments in their own lives when they're like, this was a first for me. And maybe, you know, I could have handled this better, or next time I'm in this situation, I know to do XYZ. And that's just a part of the learning process or process. And it is tough when you and someone else potentially gets hurt in the process of learning and growing. And not even to be cynical, but I think that's just life, you know? And
Yeah.
so I think that, you know, your book is a great representation of that, of those things that we just talked about, of relationships and trying to figure out how to navigate them, especially if they're new. And then especially, you know, something that came to mind is like people who faced a lot of trauma, like their first healthy relationship, it might feel that same way. And the reason why I bring that up is I've worked in that social service field where I dealt with, like, not saying that that's your case, but I'm just trying to make a connection. Like there would be like women who would get into healthy relationships and they're like, they don't know how to act, they don't know what to do because this is their first healthy relationship, or even men, like this is their first healthy relationship. So what do they do? A lot of those feelings. And I think that your close friend absolutely is right. It's normal. It is normal. And like whoever says that it's not normal, keep living, keep living. You will maybe not. Maybe some people don't face those feelings, but a lot of us do. And so I'm excited to sharing this book. What else? Is there anything else that you want to tell us about it? I think this has been a great discussion.
The book itself is like, it's an experience to really go through, because I love the way that I actually did write it. I love that I compared him to certain things in my life that I knew were bad for me, and I have stopped at this point. And it's an amazing thing to think about now that I wrote this and I got everything out in the open now. Like a lot of the things that are on the book cover even relate to the relationship. Like the book cover color was it's a color that I see as love, because a lot of colors can represent the difference in what you feel. And lilac is just one of my favorite colors that I see as it. And then the flowers that are bright and healthy, just from left to right, go into wilting and dead flowers. That is just, some things are inevitable to never last. And just to Neverlasting was something clever that I had thought, and was like, this is it, that's what I need to put. Because when you're young, you have these thoughts about how, you know, you think about a future together, and like, so thinking about it, I thought that we were going to be everlasting, that we were going to have that type of love, but then it turned into something that never lasted. So it's just kind of, it's special to me now. If it helps someone realize that something that they're going through can relate to that, then that's awesome. I love that. That's what I want to do. That's how, like, I want things the same for them. If this book's help them, that's amazing. And I think it's just so special to think that I could connect with other people on this same level, that this has happened to other people, that people can really just truly relate to what I felt. I can't wait for this to really come out and